It's time to steer the line.
Touchdown!
Sports betting, fantasy football, and the latest NFL news. Featuring Loud-Desmond, Christian Giordani, Rocky Giordani, and Jeremy James. Bet on us to make you a better better.
What?
Let's get ready to steer the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Steer Line. I'm your host and stats expert, Christian Giordani. Alongside with me is no one so far. It looks like it's just me today carrying on the show, so we will move forward. First topic of today's news, Rashee Rice is just ruining his life so quickly. For a young man, barely the age of 24, he's digging himself into a deeper hole every single day. We obviously know about the 8 felony counts he has on that racing strip, I believe in Vegas or Dallas, I can't recall. The possession of marijuana he has as well. Earlier last week, he got himself into another altercation in Dallas, a nightclub where he allegedly assaulted a photographer. And the first story that came out was just him, young kid in a bar in a club, was defending himself from a photographer who was getting in his space. Now it's coming out that Rashee Rice lured the alleged victim back into the nightclub. From the story which sets from Pro Football Talk today, the complaint said that at approximately 1:30 a.m. At the Lit Kitchen and Lounge located at 609 North Harvard Street in Dallas, had an after party for Rashee Rice being there. And sometime around that 1:30 a.m., the photographer left. Rashee Rice texted the alleged victim, who came back at approximately 1:56 a.m. And while him being distracted looking at his phone, Rashee Rice hit him on the left side of his face. Man, oh man, what do you do when you're that young? You have all that money, that fame coming in. You just won a Super Bowl less than 6 months ago. And now your NFL career is looking like it's not even going to survive its sophomore year. Man, I don't get what happens with these young kids who get all this fame, get the money, and make stupid decisions. He really needs to reevaluate the position he's in, the friends he's surrounding himself in. It's a bunch of yes men trying to get, their payday with him, and now he's suffering the consequences of it. And rightfully so, of his own dumb actions. The Chiefs are already getting involved, putting him to forced therapy, community service systems, anger management courses. So obviously this is something that is an issue. He can't keep himself out of the news outlet, and that's just bad for any NFL team. All right, everyone, moving on. We are a betting show, so we're going to talk about some of my favorite odds going ahead into next year. We're going to our division winners odds for each division. And going up ahead for the AFC East, I have the New York Jets, who are tied with the best odds for this division at plus 160 with the Buffalo Bills. Plus 200, which is tied with Miami. Right under plus 160 with the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo really got gutted last year, as I always said. This offseason, they lost Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Stephon Diggs is gone now. Josh Allen is thrown to a bunch of guys who have never reached 1,000 yards. Dallas Knox, Kevin Knox is a good tight end, but he's nowhere near an elite threat, in my opinion. And as talented as Josh Allen is, he can't play both sides of the ball. The defense isn't there no more. They're ran by a almost 40-year-old Von Miller. And Josh Allen is just going to struggle. When he has to play hero ball, he creates turnover. Josh Allen, when Stephon Diggs was out last year, had 16 more turnovers than his average. That's a whopping 7.5% turnover per pass. All right, moving on to my next favorite. I know Loud-Desmond is going to like this one. His New Orleans Saints, who are projected to be the second worst team in this league, They're at plus 1,600 to win the division. Um, Going up ahead, it's been a really, really rough few seasons for New Orleans. They lost Drew Brees out of retirement, being one of the best ever. Alvin Kamara got arrested 2 seasons ago with a suspension. They had I'm blanking on the name, the tight end who's also a quarterback that they love to use in schemes for some reason. And then they finally get their guy Derek Carr, who I think they overpaid for. But now having a younger sided defense with Chase Young on that end, having Derek Carr with a full season under his belt there, plus 380, my apologies, for the New Orleans Saints to win the division is my favorite going ahead this year. Going ahead for my favorite to win the West, it might come off as biased as someone who, as a Rams fan, can't really have a lot to talk about here, but I'm still going to say it anyways. Plus 330 to win the division, the Los Angeles Rams. What a great team this team was last year. Very underrated. Puka Nacua emerged out of nowhere. Byron Young and Kobe Turner were finalists for Defensive Rookies of the Year. Steve Avila, who is a young kid leading that offensive line now, shifting over to center, getting Kevin Dotson back on a good 3-year deal. Rob Havenstein still has some time in him. And obviously we have Matthew Stafford, who has been asking for more guaranteed money coming the next season, which I think the Rams should give him, blindly loving him. But plus 330 with, and Cooper Kupp as well. He's coming back on an emerging revenge tour next year. A lot of people forgot Cooper Kupp was a top 2 wide receiver in the league, and he wasn't too. He's been riddled with injuries for the past 2 years. If he can stay healthy throughout the whole year, he would be one of my favorites to win offensive player of the year. Okay, going on forward, to win the NFC North, I think Detroit is going to take a back pedal this year. It's going to be really tough for them to be the same team they were last year. Of course, they addressed their secondary in the draft, but with the emerging young stars on the Green Bay Packers, I love them winning that division at plus 210 in the NFC North. Jordan Love has just been a dog all last year, and I think he's going to show more of what he did in the later half of the season. Getting Josh Jacobs behind. Obviously, losing their running back was really tough for them. Aaron Jones, sorry, name was slipping. Losing Aaron Jones was tough, but having Josh Jacobs replace him is going to be good. Sammy Watkins is going to be an emerging star. They're going to get some good moves at wide receiver. And if they're really in contention, not just to win their division, but to win the number 1 seed in the NFC, I think they're going to make a trade for a really, really big guy. Maybe a reunion with Devontae Adams. All right, moving on to the AFC North. I got the Bengals at plus 165. Joe Burrow is back. Patrick Mahomes is the undisputed best quarterback in the NFL. Excuse me. But with Joe Burrow being there, him and Tom Brady are the only man that is beating him in the playoff games. Joe Burrow was struggling in the beginning of last year with injuries. His numbers have went down. He eventually was sidelined for the remainder of the year with a wrist injury. Jake Browning came in and won a string of games. If Joe Burrow can stay consistent and healthy, Jamar Chase can fix his attitude problem with Joe Burrow, and everything can move forward. I think they have a really, really good shot of winning this division. Obviously, they lost Tyler Boyd to the Tennessee Titans. T. Higgins is looking to get out of that division as well, looking to get out of that team. I really, really think they're going to come up with a solution to keep him. Obviously, there's a lot of dysfunction going on with Logan Wilson also wanting to be out of that team as well. Logan Wilson's nearing 33 years of age. As a defensive player on the outside line, I don't really see a problem letting him go for someone younger or something of equal value to him. And their offensive line is getting better and better each day they come. As long as Joe Burrow can stand upright, this team will have something to say about winning that division. And I know the Ravens are there. I know the Browns have an emerging defense. I know Pittsburgh with, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Everything's too much up in the air for Pittsburgh for me. The Browns with Deshaun Watson at quarterback starting, I don't like them at all. And then I think just outright, healthy for healthy, I think the Bengals are a better team than the Baltimore Ravens. And I know they have the acquisition of Derrick Henry now this year. I know Lamar Jackson's off an MVP year. I know Zay Flowers is an emerging star. But Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is probably the best 1-2 punch in football. Going on ahead for the NFC East, Philadelphia plus 130. This team is just so good. They got even better. They had their woes at the end of last year. They lost terribly to the Buccaneers in the division round. In the wild card round. Jalen Hurts was pretty found out at the end of last year. He's been evolving his game in the offseason. You see him becoming more of a pocket passer if you're following him on his social, seeing what he's been doing in the training. Obviously, he's going to use his athleticism when needed, but I think he's going to really evolve into a much better quarterback than he was at the end of last year. A.J. Brown got extended. He got his money's guaranteed, and that was a big issue last year if you guys don't remember. A.J. Brown was complaining about, an extension not getting in the works, and he finally got it, so he must be pleased. Going on ahead, they also have Devontae Smith, who's a dog at wide receiver. I think if it was on any other team, he might be a wide receiver one. Their defense has been emerged. Obviously, they lost Jason Kelce in the front lines, but they have been addressing it in the draft and still have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the NFL. They're addressing their secondary. They got Cooper DeJean in the second round, which I think was such a steal for them. They've signed a bunch of veterans to fill in the spots that they needed. Obviously, they lost Hassan Reddick as well to the Jets, but as long as they can stay, and obviously they have Saquon Barkley now to extend the run game, which is going to be huge for them, huge. So obviously if they can stay healthy as well, and nothing goes off track, obviously with all these picks, if nothing goes off track, they'll be well. I think Philadelphia would be right there alongside with them. For my next division, plus 110 for the Houston Texans. There's no secret to how I feel about C.J. Stroud. I think this kid has a chance to be the best quarterback in the league soon. He is such an intelligent quarterback. And I know we all recall back 2 years ago why Carolina passed up on him with that number one pick. He scored very poorly in the quarterback efficiency test, which is basically a knowledgeable test to see how knowledgeable you are as a quarterback. And how he responded was probably one of my favorite responses ever. I'm not a test taker. I'm a quarterback. And this kid he proved that to everyone last year. And his team has only gotten better now. He's got another offensive threat in Stephon Diggs, who's, as long as he can keep his attitude in check, will be a great addition to the team. Nico Collins was a big key piece in their offense last year. Tank Dell, before going through injury, was such a dog. He was on pace to be right next to Puka Nacua for breaking records as well. Alongside what we're talking about, Tank Dell, he was involved in a shooting a week and a half ago. He sustained minor injuries and should be back by training camp this year. But, alongside with the defense in Houston, they are going to be one of the better, if not the best team in the AFC. And then obviously going into the next division, I think we can all see who it's going to be. Kansas City, they have the best odds to win any division, minus 225. I won't bet against them until someone proves me otherwise. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the league. Rashid Rice, even if he doesn't play it down. Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. Even if you put Kadarius Toney in there, this team is unstoppable in my opinion. And it's not because of the star power. It's because of two people, really, three arguably. It's Chris Jones on the defensive side. It's Patrick Mahomes under center, and it's Andy Reid on the sideline. Andy Reid is a football guru. This guy will really, really mess up your team. So, obviously, my favorite to win the next one. Moving on to our MVP odds. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is at plus 650. Josh Allen at plus 800. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow at plus 1,000. C.J. Stroud at plus 1,100. Lamar Jackson at plus 1,200. You know what? Somewhere in this top 5, top 6 of people I just named is going to be the MVP. And truthfully, in my opinion, it's going to be a two-man race between C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is going to have the offense to give him that numbers, but C.J. Stroud will as well. At the end of the day, it's going to be coming down to wins. Who has more wins? Who's more likely to win their division? Who's more likely to beat out the teams for a better record? Joe Burrow is going to be in a really, really, really tough division. Pittsburgh's there, who has a really, really good defense. Browns are there, one of the best defenses in the league. Baltimore's there, one of the better defenses. He will win that division, but not by a stretch. C.J. Stroud is in the youngest division in NFL history. The average age for a player in that division is 23.4 years old, which is nuts to me when you really think about it. That's only 2 years away from my age. But C.J. Stroud is going to be playing against Anthony Richardson, who's basically going to come into his own rookie year after missing, I believe, 13, 15 games last year. Gardner Minshew was out and he led that team to a pretty good record, but I think it's going to take some time for Anthony Richardson to get running on his feet. Alongside Jacksonville has just, I don't know what Jacksonville is doing. They signed Calvin Ridley. I'm sorry, they let go of Calvin Ridley to go to a division rival. They get Gabe Davis, who's basically just another Christian Kirk, in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence is giving me worries now as to not being what I think he would be. He's really, really struggled to fight real competition in that division. And as long as there's competition in that division, I don't think he's going to be winning much. And then we move on to Tennessee, who I think probably has the best fighting chance for that division. It's really, really, they lost Henry, but they picked up Calvin Ridley. They still have D-Hop. I'm blanking on the third wide. Oh, they brought Tyler Boyd, which is probably one of the better wide receiver threats. But can Will Levis step up to beat Houston? And I don't think they can. Houston is one of the better teams of the AFC. So with the wins stacked up, I love C.J. Stroud at plus 1,100. Moving on to our offensive and defensive players of the year. Tyreek Hill plus 700, CeeDee Lamb plus 900, Christian McCaffrey with the same odds as CD, Justin Jefferson at plus 1,000, Jamar Chase at plus 1,200, Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 2,200. Now here's my issue with the top guys. Tyreek, he's moving into probably his last year of his career, if what he said was true a few years ago. And he's going to be losing touches. You have Jalen Waddle on the other side of you, and now you have Odell Beckham Jr., who's going to be left in one-on-one coverage as a third option. I think Odell Beckham is probably going to lead that team in receptions. Going ahead, CeeDee Lamb, who is probably my second favorite to win this. Again, same issue. You have Dak Prescott behind center, and in the regular season, he's fine. But eventually they do butt heads, and it gets difficult with these two. So for that, I'm going to have to pass up on him. Christian McCaffrey, he won last year. It's really hard for me to vote with repeaters in anything. He was really, really good. He's going to continue to be great, but voter fatigue is a real thing. Justin Jefferson's going to have a rookie quarterback sitting behind him. If anything, he's going to have Sam Darnold for the first few games. So despite the talent he is and probably being the best wide receiver in football, it's going to be really tough for him to get those receptions and get those catches with the growing pains of having a rookie. Jamar Chase, plus 1,200. I love Jamar. Jamar is probably top 4, top 5 in my opinion. The only reason I'm going to the next guy is Amon-Ra St. Brown at plus 2,200. I like the odds for the position he's in. He has Jared Goff, who's probably top 7 quarterback in the league. He's going to be facing teams with very weak secondaries twice a year, 6 times this year. So it's going to be a really good setup for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who just got his own extension a few weeks ago as well, the highest paid annual wide receiver in NFL history. I think he's going to be my favorite for the offensive player of the year. Going on ahead to our defensive players of the year, we have Micah Parsons at plus 600, Myles Garrett at plus 700, TJ Watt at plus 800, Nick Bosa at plus 800 as well, Max Crosby at plus 1,000, and Aiden Hutchinson at plus 1,600. Micah is a man amongst boys. It's just I don't see the votes going to a Cowboy this year, especially how dysfunctional the team is. If they don't have a great record, I can't see them, having this vote for Micah Parsons. Myles Garrett, he won last year. Voter fatigue's a real thing in my opinion. TJ Watt, dog, but he just can't. He's going to be in a real secondary set defense this year with the signings they've had. And he's already a 2-time winner. It's going to be tough. Nick Bosa, I just don't really see it. Max Crosby is my pick this year at plus 1,000. He has Christian Watkins in the middle to take on some of those double teams that he's been taking on this year. And he's been so close for the past 3 years, finishing top 3 in voting in every single one of those years. Max Crosby, I think, finally gets it done this year for Defensive Player of the Year at plus 1,000. Going on ahead for our Offensive Rookies of the Year and Defensive Rookies of the Year, Caleb Williams at plus 210, Marvin Harrison at plus 600, Washington at plus 900, Minnesota at plus 1,000, Malik Neighbors at plus 1,400, Drake May at plus 1,500, Xavier Worthy at plus 1,600. Now, we all know Caleb Williams is going into probably the best situation for any rookie quarterback ever. He's has Keenan Allen, a top 15 receiver, DJ Moore, a top 10 guy, Roma Dunze, a lottery pick this year, top 10 guy in the draft. Excuse me. He has Cole Kmet, who's a top 10 tight end in my opinion as well. He's going to be facing a weaker division than most. If he doesn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'll be very shocked. But with the odds at plus 210, I'm going to go away and give away another pick of mine. J.J. McCarthy at plus 1,000, I think, is a phenomenal pick as well. He has the best wide receiver in football with Justin Jefferson. If he can find his stride, and if he starts the same amount of games Caleb Williams does, I think he can really, really compete for that Offensive Rookie of the Year. If he can, he also has T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison as well. These are all guys who are great finishers for the Minnesota Vikings. Moving on to our Defensive Rookies of the Year, you have Dallas Turner at plus 500, Latu at plus 650, Jared Verse for my Rams at plus 1,000, Philadelphia cornerback Quincy Mitchell at plus 1,100, Teron Arnold at plus 1,100, and Byron Murphy II for plus 1,200. Ooh, man, Dallas Turner, really big guy going into Minnesota. I think it's just not going to be his year. Latu, probably the best defensive guy this year, but like I said, the Colts don't have a lot of guys around him to get him the openings, to get the sacks, to get the numbers that you need to win defensive player. Jared Verse, he's going into a really, really good situation. He has Byron Young on one side, Kobe Turner in the middle. Obviously, the loss of Aaron Donald is going to be really, really tough on them. But with a secondary like Tre'Davious White, Kamal Curl, and Darius Williams, it's going to give him more time to give pressure to the quarterback. But yet, he's still not my favorite to win it. This goes to my division rival, Seattle's defensive tackle Byron Murphy II. In my opinion, he's the best interior defensive guy on this list. He's a monster. I was very, very upset that he fell or that he went to Seattle before him. Obviously, I'm happy with the signing of Jared Verse. We needed the edge. But Byron Murphy II, is my favorite to move on going into the NFL for the defensive rookie of the year for the NFL. It's been tough going ahead with the rest of the picks. Let me know what you guys think for the rest of the picks going on next year. This has been Steer Line. We'll see you guys next week.